Welcome to the Terminal One podcast. I am your host with the most, Charlene, and today I am joined by the one and only Rain. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today
Thank you
and
for
taking time
having
from
me.
your busy schedule. Of course. Can you please just give the people a little something, what you do, who you are, why they should actually try and listen to what you're going to have to say throughout this podcast?
Okay. When it comes to being asked the question who I am, it's it's a difficult one for me because I can't really pinpoint exactly.
Yeah.
But I prefer to just label myself as a cocktail because I do a lot of things within the music industry. I do music business. That's the PR and marketing side, talent management. I'm also a creative. I do music video directing, film directing. I write scripts. I even write songs sometimes. So it's just like a whole lot of things happening within the music industry. But my number one thing is the PR that I do for Zim Artist here.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, cool. Awesome. So you mentioned that you are an artist manager and you work with, artists in the Zim context, PR and the likes. You work with Voltz. How did that come to be? Like, did you just wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm just going to be Voltz manager today, and I hit him up? Or did you have to go through like a trial and error? How did you come to that point in your life where you're like, okay, fine, now I'm his manager?
All right. So how it starts usually is I do a lot of PR for artists. So not just him, but a lot of artists can come in for consultation, brand consultation, or come in for any creative work. And then that's where the talks then begin.
Yeah.
With Voltz, the lucky thing is when we were already speaking throughout, but then when he then approached me to be his manager, it was like, oh, I'm actually free. There's no one here. So, okay, cool. Let's do this. And of course, there's a probation period. We see if, we can work together, if it syncs, and it was a perfect fit. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I will give you your flowers for that because I feel like, was it last year when you got him that deal with, or I'm assuming it's you, with, is it Merit? The book
thing,
yes. It was really nice because in the previous episode with a fellow, we got someone to come in and give like an audience perspective. He was talking about branding essentially, and how artists in Zim sometimes fail to brand themselves and package themselves in a way that's sort of like palatable and easier to access.
Yes.
And then we referenced how as kids growing up you had those chips, those John Cena,
Yes,
Undertaker chips, and you would
WWE.
want to exactly, you'd really want to collect those. And then we then mentioned Voltz because I think in Zim context there's Voltz, and then I think Van Choga at some point had an energy drink, which is something like, if I'm a fan, definitely I will go out of my way to find that particular book, even though if I'm a student, my teacher is obviously going to say, cover your book with khaki cover, but it's that thing that you'll have
someone, an idol or someone that you look up to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So flowers to you for that.
Thank
that
you
was
so
really,
much.
really
I
impressive.
think it's also a big part from him being just as humble and just as a good person that they would approach us, because it also comes from personality and what type of music he puts out to the people.
Out there. Yeah, that is true. He's very conscious, and he's for the kids as well. Like if you hear a kid listening to Voltz, you won't feel any type of way because they won't be that influenced to do something bad, which is typically what a lot of people think hip-hop is. It doesn't always have to be associated with like gang violence and just the negative stuff. It can always be used to uplift people, tell stories, and just vibe, you know what I mean? So yeah, awesome. So what does a typical day look like for you as an artist manager and someone who helps artists with PR and brand campaign? Do you wake up and you're like, okay, let's get ready? Or do you wake up and you're like, okay, it's crunch time, meetings back to back, I have to travel, I have to do this, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3?
I mean, it depends with the time of the season, actually. My winter is actually very laid back. I have a few meetings here and there, but when it comes to then the beginning of the year or the August to December festive season, it gets really busy. So it's just, waking up, obviously you're waking up to phone calls. You have a work phone that is mainly for the artists. You have to like go back and forth replying to emails, text messages. Some of them will be fans. Not every call you get is a business call.
Yeah.
You schedule. My days are very scheduled. I know what I'm doing from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. That way I can be able to manage all the other things that I do in terms of talent management, or if I'm doing marketing for a certain company, everything of mine has to be scheduled. So it really depends with the season. Most of the times it's very hectic. You just wake up from like 4 a.m. and you are on the go till you sleep. And sometimes, I can wake up at 12 p.m. So it just depends.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And what would you say is the most rewarding part of your job with, dealing with artists in terms of getting them brand deals and just PR? Is it maybe at some point you probably had a client come in and they didn't really have the best rep, and then you managed to flip the script? Or was it just getting them a really, really great deal? Or was it something less materialistic?
I think for me, it's not even about the material things that come. Of course, they are a blessing, but just to be able to see somebody grow, that for me is like, okay, I did a good job, or we did a good job rather. Just to be able to look back and see, all right, we used to have no music out, we used to have no radio playlisting, but then now we've got all these people actually being fans and family and friends. That for me, I think that's the number one thing that I look at, because I'm very passionate about the music and how it speaks to people. I personally grew up being parented by music, where you'd actually, if you're sad, if you're depressed, if you're happy, it's always some song that is going to be there for you. So having to do that to the other kids that are growing up is actually a good thing. Having to see phone calls or messages from people saying, oh, I really love this song, or you changed my life, or I was very depressed and I listened to your song, or I didn't have any motivation and you motivated me to do this. I feel like that for me is the biggest thing. We are brought here on earth for a purpose. Some become pastors, some become teachers, and each career is a teaching platform. So if you get to teach somebody and pass wisdom and actually change someone's life, I feel like that is the greatest blessing that we could ever ask for.
That's very nice. That's very sweet. That's very sweet. Very thoughtful, actually. It warms my heart. Awesome. So, how do you and your artists, the ones that you manage and the ones that you help, how do you align your vision in terms of creative vision and commercial vision? Because at the end of the day, music is a business. So in as much as the artist wants to put music out there, you also need to make sure that at the end of the day, they've got food on the table. How do you align those two together? Or does it just work?
I think if someone comes to me for a consultation, I hear what they want to say, and I ask them obviously where they want to go, how they want people to perceive them, because for me, I can't tell you what to do with your art. But I can work with what you give me. So if you come to me and say, look, I really don't care about the money, I just want to be a superstar, I'll create a template that gives you exactly that. My work is just make sure that the goals that you're set for yourself, you're going to accomplish them at a certain time period. So it really depends with what the artist or the client rather is looking for. I've got corporate clients that come to me and say, hey, we just want sales, and others just say, you know what, we'll get to the sales later, but we want visibility. So I just then work with that,
with what they want. Oh, that's fantastic. And so these are some nuggets that we're just gonna ask, and hopefully you can just drop a couple of gems here and there. With Chief Ben and Voltz, what's a strategy that you've used that's helped them grow internationally?
Okay. I think with the music side, it's always to start yourself being relatable from where you are. You can never be recognized internationally if the people from your home can vouch for you. So I think even with both of them, it's always go back to your roots. For Chief Ben, if you're going to create content, make sure it resonates with somebody that went to the school as you, that lived in the same neighborhood as you, someone that is literally in Zimbabwe, with the Zimbabwean economy, so that they can get to understand you. And when they vouch for you and becomes fans for you, the international platforms will then start recognizing you, because international platforms want to collaborate with the Zimbabwean culture.
Yeah.
So you have to then show the Zimbabwean culture and actually show the people living in Zimbabwe vouching for you. So I think that's one of the things that both brands we work like that, to just always make sure you're repping where you're coming from, and then we can build from there.
Awesome. And can you share a major milestone in the brands and, you know, partnerships that you've worked with that really, really came full circle for you?
I think it might not be with working with brands. Obviously, working with brands is a good thing. But I think for me, I'll go back to Poptain. I used to manage Poptain.
Okay.
I feel like when I was working with him, we really got to the point where, you know, everyone wanted to work with us. His music was there on every radio station. He was playing literally everywhere, and he was being booked to, you know, on big stages.
Yeah.
I think that was a moment in my career that I was like, okay, so I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Yes. And remember when COVID started, people were not really familiar with the digital performances, virtual performances rather. And I think for me that was a very big milestone, because I had a show when one of the guys that I was working with, I had a show called, okay, I might forget what it was called, but yes, it was one something.
Okay.
And it was like, you know, Poptain versus Enzo, Noble Styles versus T-Gones, and it was one of the first reality virtual performances that was aired in Zimbabwe during COVID. And we literally broke the internet, because people were like, oh, so we don't have to go out, but we can watch people perform. And it was so crazy that, you know, the following morning, Poptain was playing everywhere. So for me, that's definitely one of the biggest moments of my life that I'll be like, okay, this is a very big achievement. It's a milestone rather. And even if you look at Voltz with the NOP Makoni album, I think when he was making it, obviously you want to achieve and you want it to be successful, but I don't think he had seen how successful it was going to be. Even for the whole team, we were just like, oh, okay, we really did that. This is an album that people are playing from first song to last song. And, you know, within a few months, we have a Nama. That, for me, was also like,
really good.
This is dope. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, I think the first time I ever saw Voltz perform was at 263 Fest.
Yes, Culture Fest.
Yeah, at Culture Fest. And the way the crowd was just chanting NOP, NOP, it was a wow moment for me, because I was like, I always knew he was a good rapper, but just being in that space and actually seeing, like, wow,
how really much people can like sing along.
Yeah, and you're like, wow, it's very impressive, which is great. Okay, cool. So back to the music industry. It's very challenging. It's not too kind.
Yes.
Right. What would you say is the biggest challenge in managing a hip hop artist in Zim?
Firstly, I wasn't a hip hop fan. I think we should start there.
Yeah.
So I had to really learn and get into spaces where it's about hip hop for me to understand what you have to do with hip hop music. Of course, I know music in general, but you know, when it's now subdivided into just one genre, you have to really understand. So I think the biggest challenge for me was just to understand how to market and move with that type of music.
Yeah.
And looking in Zimbabwe, it's not really a big market. Zim hip hop fans are not as big as, let's say, a Sungura artist, a gospel artist. So just having to see that small chunk and say, okay, how best can we work with these guys, and how best can we sell the music to them, you know? And obviously, like what you said, people would just be thinking, oh, hip hop is, you know, good for the kids, you know, gang violence, drugs, but then, you know, so just then having to change people's mind to say, no, look, this is actually not the case.
Yeah.
We sing about the problems that are in the society, you know, we're about positivity and change. So I guess just learning how to maneuver into the market.
Yeah.
That was like a challenge for me. But I prevailed.
Yeah, you did.
I prevailed.
I mean, you got a number. Yeah. So
but don't be asking me about American rappers and all.
That's a different
I know a little bit, but yeah. Yeah.
Nah, don't worry, we'll keep it local. And how would you say you navigate issues like monetization and streaming royalties and piracism? Because I remember, I don't know if you know Farai Mzingwa. He does a lot of stats, and it's called, what's it called? Afro Music Observatory, right? You should check it out for sure. So I think it was 2-3 weeks ago, he dropped some interesting insights on like the most platforms that Zimbabweans listen to music.
Right.
So the first one was YouTube, and then Spotify and other DSPs were there, but the margin between the two was completely different.
Yes.
So in terms of like monetizing, you know, your streaming revenue and everything, let's say your artist has 300,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, but then on YouTube it's got like 3 million views per video. How then do you sort of like come together and then figuring out, saying, okay, fine, we should use this, what are they called? We should use these guys, this distributor to collect, you know, our royalties? Or is there something that at some point was overlooked? Because I do understand a lot of artists, especially the ones that are currently emerging, really, really overlook their royalties,
of course,
and their masters, and they just want to put music out there. But then they say you can't make music, you can't make money from music, but then you can. But it's with streams, it's a bit slow, and how do you?
Before I even work with an artist, that's one of the first questions that I actually ask. Do you have a distributor?
Yeah.
Do you have a publisher?
Yeah.
Because it's very important to work hand in hand with those people, especially if I'm going to push a song. I'm expecting, you know, to show in terms of the stats and the numbers.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, all the artists that I've worked with have got distribution, proper distribution. So my job is to just make sure that we utilize each platform and see how best to market music on each platform. So the way you would market for YouTube is different from how you would market for Spotify and Apple Music, etc. So that's where my main focus is. But when it comes to distribution deals, an artist already comes. If they come to me and they don't have, then I can introduce them to distributors that I know, that I think you know, can help with their brand. Because you know, a lot of times it's not they don't have the knowledge, and you know, sometimes you can't really blame them, because there's somebody that is just coming from nowhere and they're like, I want to sing, that's what I want to do, I want to go for shows, and they're not really thinking about the music business side or the money side of the music. They think, okay, I'm gonna go in a couple of stages and that's the money that I get, but then there's a lot of revenue streams that you can actually get from music. So I do sit down with artists, we make sure that we are on the same page. They choose a distributor and we work like that. They choose a publisher, we work like that, and you know.
Awesome. That's great. So guys, I hope you're listening. Please do try to figure out which distributor works best for you. There's a lot of distributors out there, and I'm sure there's something for everyone depending on your pocket as well. I mean, the deals obviously won't be as grandeur, but they'll definitely help you from where you are, and they'll always up you up. So do you think Zim hip hop gets enough support from like brands and corporates in comparison to like other genres like Sungura and gospel, like you had mentioned earlier on?
I think before COVID, it usually was the other way around, where they'll just look for the most popular artist, whether it's hip hop or Sungura or whatnot. But obviously most of them were from the other genres.
Yeah.
But after COVID, I feel like Zim hip hop as a culture really came together and popped so much that corporates would see that if they want visibility and actual engagement from people, they need to work with these guys. So I think right now, currently where we are at, as long as you give the corporates visibility and sales, they will work with you. I think whether you are R&B, Zim hip hop, they will just work with you. But it's a good thing for Zim hip hop, because you know, we've got a lot of artists that really proved themselves and really grew the culture.
They did.
It really, there's like a big, you know, progress when it just comes to the growth that's happening. More fans are listening to Zim hip hop. The conversations within the music industry, there's always a Zim hip hop artist
every other day. Yeah, true.
I think that's a good thing. Corporates would definitely want to work with you if, you know, they can benefit something in terms of visibility, engagement, etc.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And what's one thing you would wish would change within the industry that would make your job easier?
I think if we could equip ourselves with the correct knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people that are there are more into wanting to be famous, to be popular, than actually to push the talent and to push the artistry. Even when you go on certain conversations, you were asking me earlier if I speak on panels, the conversations will not be really aligned to helping the artist, but it will be more to, like, you know,
just bruise, you know, please the egos.
Exactly. Type of energy. I feel like if we are going to have platforms, if you're going to be an influencer, an artist, or if you're going to have a platform that speaks to people, pass the true or correct knowledge, the correct facts, so that when people comment about the music industry, whether it's a fan commenting on songs, it's not negative, but it's more like, it's more constructive. It's like, okay, this is a song. Because now if you drop a song, whether it's good or not, even if it's good, people just have a way of
finding
just
something,
you know, being negative or comparing. There's too much comparison that just happens. You post a song, it's like, can you just say this is bad or good? Don't say, but Ningi
did this.
You understand?
Trying to copy Ningi.
I honestly don't blame the fans, because what we are, the platforms that are speaking to them, this is what they are preaching and this is what they are saying. Oh, this is actually good, so go ahead.
Yeah.
But I feel we need to pass out the correct knowledge so that people can really, I feel like we are very talented, but because the things that we choose to push, to make viral, are like the worst things.
That's my chat, like, all the time. I think this is probably like the 4th time this season we've mentioned this. The people that go viral, I'm not shading them or anything. It's funny, yeah, sure. But the people that really truly deserve to go viral, that are like really, really talented, and they're actually pushing something that's, you know, worthwhile. But then Ningi from X place says like this vulgar word, and then all of a sudden the whole internet erupts, and they're like, oh my gosh.
Actual curators are not getting the, you know, visibility that they are supposed to get. Yeah. I feel like even to corporates or other people that are just like working with industry people, don't work with someone because they went viral, but work with someone because they are speaking to your market. Yeah. I'm going to go off topic a bit, but I feel like the number one problem that I have with influencers in Zimbabwe is you've got a platform to actually make a change, but you choose to speak about a lot of things. Why can't you just choose one line of influencing and stick to it? You can't influence beauty and influence food, influence sport, and it becomes so clouded that, you know, the big brands that are outside, the international brands, will look at us and just say we're too confused. It's not that we are not capable of having a big brand like Fenty. We are capable of having an influencer do that for Fenty, but when Fenty looks at us, they're just like, you're at sports today, you are this today, who are you exactly? Because what actual corporates are supposed to be looking at is, are you speaking to my market so that you can influence my product properly? But now if you've got 100 followers, 2 of them are from sports, 50 of them are from food, 40 of them are from fashion, and let's say if the sport brand actually wants to come, they'll be like, hey, I'm not seeing any change. What's going on is because, you know, the market is shit. Don't share the market. So I feel like if you have a platform, don't share a market, speak the truth, speak correct facts and actual things that can help us progress. And I feel like, just to bounce off what you said about speaking facts, people
aren't really open to being corrected. Like, misinformation happens all the time. I say wrong things all the time.
We all do.
But then, someone corrects you, and then you're allowed to retract your statement.
Of course.
And say, my bad, guys. I didn't have all the knowledge, but now I know better. But I feel like it has to do also with, like, ego, especially, like, online, on Twitter, especially. If someone tweets something, for example, if I tweet, I feel like there aren't that many rappers that are girls, which is true. There aren't that many female rappers, but Yadis is dropping a mixtape on Friday, I think. But by the time this episode comes out, the EP would have dropped. But anyways, I can say something. Like, there aren't that many female rappers or, like, musicians in general in comparison to the guys. And then someone will retweet or someone will comment, if you don't know Jack, blah, 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 blah. They won't come in a constructive way, like you say. They'll just come off, trying to bite my head off. And you're like, guys, I'm open to being corrected, but also the way people then say it. Yeah. That's the thing. Because
it's always someone has to win.
Exactly.
Even if it's not an argument.
It's not an argument. Just say, no, dude, they are. You just don't know. Here's the links to some of their stuff. And then that's when you then correct yourself and say, oh, yeah, my bad, guys, I didn't know. And that's also, like, a thing, like, in just Zim music standards, really. You'll find some people say there aren't that many, not many, there aren't any rock artists at all. But you've got multiple bands that are there. They're just very niche. Yes. So that's the thing. People assume just because they don't know something, it's completely non-existent. Yeah. Which isn't always the case. And I wish you guys would just take the time to just do your research before you start tweeting, because the internet is forever. Elon is not going to delete those tweets, guys. He's keeping them in his database. Yeah. Awesome. So, something light. Let's think about something light. Can you share any, like, funny moments with your clients, whether you guys are shooting or maybe when you were on set? You did mention that you're a film director as well. When you were on set and probably, like, you recorded something and you figured out maybe the lens cap was still on one of the cameras.
I feel like that's always a thing. Well, the biggest thing is forgetting the batteries. And you're already traveled somewhere, and then it's like, okay, set, are we rolling? We forgot the batteries,
and you can vision where you left them charging there on the charger. It happens so many times.
It happens. I think for me, the funniest and traumatizing are the fans. Obviously, the fans don't know me. I'm just another person. But if I'm moving with a client, and they're coming to, like, they literally push me off because they're like, who are you? We don't care about you. We're trying to get pictures. Oh, wow. I think that's always a funny moment, because when we're then back as a team, they're like, oh, shame. No. You were just standing there like, what do I do? I'm being pushed. And it's so traumatizing sometimes because, you might get grabbed.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
But it's also funny when you sit down and just, like, look back and you're like, that's really funny. That what happened there, guys. That was a stampede, and I almost died.
And the stampedes are so real, bro.
They're so crazy.
I remember, who was it? I don't even remember who passed by, but I was just walking, minding my own business, and so I'm always wearing headphones. That's the thing. Yeah. But something in me was like, reduce your volume just a little bit, and, like, I stopped walking. Literally, I stopped. Like, I choked on my shoulder, and I just saw, like, a swarm of dudes that were just running. I don't remember who exactly it was. I think it was Denim Osan, or it was Amara Brown. I don't remember who it was. Who was, like, maybe, like, 30 meters in front of me. I've never been so scared in my entire life. Girl. Because I was like, if I fall, these guys are not going to stop. They want to get to whoever that is. Hey. They're going to jump over me, step on me. I'm going to die in this moment. But it's scary, like you said.
You become non-existent. Dude. Like, wait.
You're like, I'm a person too. Hello? Nah, but that's true. That's true. What's, like, one misconception people have about artist managers?
I think people think we like to credit ourselves so much. But they don't understand that it's a partnership. Yeah, I can speak for myself and say I can never take full credit of things because it's a partnership. We're working together. We sit down, we go back and forth on ideas and we execute. Obviously, I'm on the ground doing the groundwork. Yeah, but it's every success that we go through. managers are not supposed to take 100% credit.
Yeah.
Because there's so much teamwork that goes on. I have a couple of people that, sometimes respond to me and say, oh, you think you made this client, you think you made them. And I'm like, no, we made each other because my brand is growing, they're growing, I'm doing my job. And, it's a train. They have the vision of where they want to go, and everybody just comes on board to do their job to make sure that the train gets to the destination. So I think it's trying to point fingers and say, oh, you're posting like this, or you're posting yourself with an artist, or you're posting because you think you do it all. You're all that. Yeah, I think that's, for me, I don't know for others, but then for me that's like, okay guys, calm down. I never claimed that I made anyone. I've never claimed, like 100% success on anything. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Okay. Last question. If you could give one piece of advice to artist managers out there, or artists that are open to working with managers, what would you say to them? Like, is there something that they should look out for, or etc? Like, the floor is yours.
Should I look at the camera?
Yeah, look at the camera. Just
I think when you are an upcoming artist, it's okay if you don't have a manager, because you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to understand the industry. But it's very important for you, even if you don't have a manager, it's very important for you to get the knowledge of the industry, to understand what goes on. Doing music is also a career. You don't just get into the booth, make a song and put it out. You act like an accountant, like a chef. You go to school, even if you don't have like school as in sit on a desk. There are so many books. If you can tweet, you can open a PDF somewhere on Google and learn. It's very important for you to learn. And for artist managers, I think the number one thing to know is the career is not yours. You are part of a vision. The vision is not yours. A lot of times artists get into depression because what they are being pushed to do is not what they are passionate about. I can never tell an artist to sing in a certain way, but I can suggest to say, hey, I think this beat is cool. I think doing this is cool. But it always has to be 100% from the artist to say, let's go ahead and do this, because you do not want a depressed artist where they'll end up saying, I even didn't want that song. You're the one that wanted that song to come out. So I feel like, those are maybe and pray. It's very important to know where you got the talent. So always appreciate where you got the talent and pray, because it can be taken away.
Yeah,
it's very important for you to learn how to pray.
Awesome, Rain. Thank you so much for coming. Before you go, Voltz, I could release anything new here, man. I'm starting to put a scoop.
Well, I think it's always. I think it's always best if it comes from him.
All right.
Yeah.
Voltz,
he will let you know.
Hit me up for a little scoop. But thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope the listeners managed to listen to what she had to say. She had a lot of wise words. If you didn't, you can always play it back. I want the views as well. So thank you so much for coming through, Rain.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hope we collaborate again in the near future.
Definitely.
Awesome, guys. Peace.